Anderson.
Oh, Lance Roylo.
How you doing?
Are you kidding me? Did you ever see that juicy piece of gristle on the end of a ribeye that
Mm-hmm.
is still sizzling right when it came from the kitchen?
Mm-hmm. That's how good.
That's how good I feel right now. That sizzling piece, because it's the best tasting bite of the whole thing, the whole steak.
All right. So what we got today?
We have Jasper Wong from POW WOW. Are you familiar with? How familiar are you? Were you with POW WOW and everything they did before?
Before we worked with them and
Yeah,
lived in Kaka'ako.
yeah.
I just knew that they had artists come and paint all the murals in Kaka'ako. That's it. I didn't know it was like worldwide. I didn't know who was behind it.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
know why they did it,
Yeah, me too. I just the hotel I worked with, they were doing a lot of artwork for the nightclub there and around the hotel. And so the hotel thought it was really edgy and cool. And I had no idea either until I started chatting with the he's the founder of POW WOW, and realized that it was a worldwide thing, that it wasn't just in the United States and Hawaii. It was in what, 17 other countries? Is that what he said?
Mm-hmm. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So real excited. Let's hear what our chat with Jasper Wong and POW WOW.
Let's do it. Jasper Wong.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey,
man?
Jasper.
So I don't get to look at your faces when we do this?
No, it's just just voices.
Damn, I got dressed up for nothing.
Oh,
no, actually, you didn't. You didn't, though.
You didn't. You didn't
because your family's there, and they're like, "Wow,
that guy. He's
that
prepared.
guy."
I went out to get my haircut.
Oh man,
I'm more worried about my voice. Like if you can make my voice deeper when you guys.
I'll add the Barry White filter.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's kind of, to me, it's kind of high, my voice, whenever I listen to it.
No. It sounds good, man. It sounds clear.
Well, Jasper, I think this is kind of cool just because, the first time you and I chatted was, I want to say it's close to a decade ago at the Modern Honolulu.
Mm-hmm.
And it was after you had done, I think, one of the murals in Addiction, and then again, I think in the hallway, the staircase going up.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and then we were.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was a while ago. I'm not sure what we were talking about. I know that we wanted to work on a couple other things, but it just sort of never worked out with the hotel. Obviously, because they had other plans, trying to sell.
Yeah, I mean, we ended up, being sponsored by the Modern for like at least a few years. Until the hotel got sold.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it was great to know that, I along my career here in Hawaii, we again, I hear your name and like, oh yeah, and I see the company, we're working with you again, and that's pretty cool. And I love the fact that our paths have crossed once again. So is it? Can you kind of tell us maybe how, like, who you are, and just a little bit about you, and what exactly is this amazing thing, POW WOW, that you have created?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Jasper Wong, and I grew up here in Hawaii, second generation Chinese, and I went to Kalani High School. I know that everyone asks that question out here, like, which high school did you go to? So I went to Kalani.
Yeah, that is a weird thing out here in Hawaii.
Yeah, so I'm a public school kid out here. So I went to Kalani High School, and then I left right after high school, and I went to Lewis Nick Clark College in Portland, Oregon, which I didn't really like going to, and I realized that it wasn't the best place for me because they didn't really have the most sort of robust arts program. One thing you should know about public schools in Hawaii is that arts, photography, or anything within sort of like the creative realm kind of gets pushed to the side, and a lot of schools don't even have arts or music curriculum.
Oh.
My daughter's elementary school, they cut out the arts programs like 2 years ago. So they didn't even have arts programs at all, unless you sign up for like after school courses or if teachers decide to include arts into their curriculum.
How old is your daughter?
Out of high school. She's 7.
So did she say, do you know who my dad is? Do you know who my dad is?
No, I mean, well, yeah, I think she's more interested in like Roblox and like Pokemon. Well, like if I was Ash Ketchum, then like she'd be more interested in my life.
Well, before you go on, what in your opinion is it being replaced with? If they are taking away arts, they must be putting something else in place of it.
No, they're just short on budget, so then they just take stuff out to sort of so that they have more money.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, or they're just spending less. Yeah, they're just spending less money.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just kind of like the case in a lot of public schools in Hawaii, at least.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So then it was the same scenario for me growing up here too, and so then a lot of like school counselors or people that are helping you sort of figure out colleges when you're in high school, they don't really know how to direct you towards a path in higher education regarding the arts or design.
Right.
Well, a lot of it's more like stuff that you kind of learn along the way. So when I went to Lewis and Clark College and realized that it wasn't the best place for me considering my interest and what I wanted to major in, I discovered various art colleges around the country, and I applied to a few, and I got into the California College of the Arts in San Francisco.
Nice.
And I kind of wish I knew more about art colleges when I was in high school, because I realized that I didn't need to do the SATs.
Oh, man.
Because art colleges could care less about your SATs.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
They care about your portfolio. And where you're at with your sort of interest and sort of like your technical skills as an artist. So I was like, damn, like I took the SATs like 2 or 3 times, like I get like the score so I can get into colleges, but it's like totally like I guess California colleges are thinking about removing that altogether. So I went to art college in San Francisco, and there I kind of studied illustration design, and I graduated from there with the BFA, but I didn't know what to do with my career, like where I would then take this degree and how I would then make a living. And this is like sort of like the mid 2000s, and social media wasn't really as big of a thing yet. And self-marketing and how you would sort of get out there as an artist, they kind of had methods to do it, but it kind of made it difficult.
So this is
sort of
is this like pre Instagram or very beginning of Instagram, like influencer is not a thing, kind of.
Yeah, this is like 06.
Oh, okay.
Graduated. So right before the recession too, right? So then it's like kind of a tough time to sort of graduate and try to figure out like a life in the arts and making money and getting a career. So it was really hard. And when I graduated, like the only sort of self-marketing tools that they were teaching us was put your artwork on a postcard and mail it to different art directors and editors and publishers, magazines, in hopes that they see the artwork on your postcard and like your work enough to hire you. And also try to enter into any of these sort of competitions or different things so that you can at least get your work published in different magazines in hopes that someone would hire you.
Wow.
So it's kind of like, well, how am I going to make a living doing this? Like, just you have to build a name for yourself, and this might be a tough way to sort of do that. So I was really interested in manufacturing. Like, what was like if I wanted to sort of make my own book or make my own shoe or brand or chair or anything for that matter, what was that process and how would I do that? Because they weren't teaching us that in college as much.
Okay.
And so I decided to move to Hong Kong shortly after graduating.
Oh, wow.
Because Hong Kong is a gateway to China, and China is one of the manufacturing capitals of the world. So that's where I ended up, like shortly after college, I lived there for about 4 years. And when I was living there, I started cold calling and trying to reach out to different manufacturers. So I ended up meeting a lot actually from just doing that. I met some of the guys that manufacture for Ralph Lauren, Coach, Steve Madden.
So you were at this time you're thinking about making clothes? Is that what it is?
Yeah, at this time I was thinking like it'd be cool to sort of like start a brand.
Right. And this is around, I want to, you said 2006, 2007, like around there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's like the top of like t-shirts are like huge, right? Like LRG and
LRG.
All those companies are like,
out. Ruka was kind of like starting around that, like they were coming up, a lot of brands were then like being sold to like larger conglomerates. And it seemed like a way to sort of like build your own company or at least a step forward in terms of trying to figure something out that you could then put your own artwork and sell, which to me seemed easier than selling my paintings at that time. So that's sort of like where my head was at. But when I was living in Hong Kong, I also ended up working for Hypebeast.
Oh my gosh.
Are you kidding me? We were just talking about this.
Yeah, it's like a street fashion. So you guys know about Hypebeast. So I was working for them like near like sort of like early on. And I was working with them doing different special projects like with Adidas and Bianchi. And also like, doing a lot of the art features, like different interviews and different things like that. And at that time, Hypebeast, at that time, probably only like the people that worked within Hypebeast was probably only like 10 of us or so.
You were part of the 10 original Hypebeast?
Well, I wasn't like the original guy, but I came in sort of like near the beginning of the original crew. Yeah, the original crew was like Eugene and Kevin and Jason, Louise and Season, and them. And so I came in kind of around that period. Like near the beginning. Yeah, but I left, to do my own thing. And so then they were based in Hong Kong, and Kevin, who's the founder and head editor, like he like lived near me as well. Like we lived in the same area in Hong Kong, and I was really close to Eugene, who was the editor in chief as well. We met each other at a Kanye concert
in Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong, yeah.
Oh my God.
It was like a Kanye, like Teriyaki Boys, like Nigo concert.
Oh, so it was related to like Bape and stuff.
Yeah, it was like a Bape related thing. And so at that time, Kanye wasn't even like, he was big, but like not that big. Like they didn't pull like a big crowd to that.
Was around that time, was that when Pharrell was associated with Nigo or?
Yeah, it was around that time. Yeah, it's kind of like early on. Yeah, when they started figuring out all the BBC stuff, the Billionaire Boys ice cream stuff and everything. So at that time, it was like kind of all that kind of culture was kind of all coming together. And so I got more and more involved within that sort of street fashion world, just from my association with Hypebeast. And that's how I like met a lot of different people and many people that are still friends to this day that I see every so often. And I used to hang out with a lot when they would come through Hong Kong, because a lot of people will come through Hong Kong because then they need to like, do manufacturing, right? So then they will go through Hong Kong and we'll meet up for dinners, lunches, hang out, etc. That was like sort of like my 20s, I guess, like spending time out there.
That sounds like fun though, man. That was a good that was a fun time, because I remember like seeing Pharrell talking about Bape and seeing Bape on TV, and then seeing those ice cream shoes that kind of look like Air Force Ones, but not really. Yeah, exactly. I mean, definitely inspired by Air Force Ones for sure. Yeah. Definitely.
And thank you for telling us the time frame, because I was just about to ask, how old were you at this time? Because it seems like you're already like meeting and kind of you're enmeshed with the right people already, even though maybe at the time you didn't know it.
22, 23, probably.
Yeah.
Like right after college. Yeah, like my early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like still sort of like awkward. I mean, I was still kind of maybe still socially awkward, because I think I was very socially awkward in high school. I was more of a nerd, I wasn't like athletic or anything.
Yeah.
And
I feel like if you talk to Jasper, I'll tell you this. I feel like if you talk to 9 out of 10 people, everyone will say probably the same thing. Like, I was awkward in high school. Unless you were like the captain of the football team, I'm not sure. I think most people felt awkward.
My brother was like a football star in high school, but then we didn't have a good football team though. We were like,
okay.
It was like a bunch of Asian kids from like Kaimaki and like Aina Haina.
Yeah.
on the football team.
But if that's your brother, then it's like that's your template. You're like, oh man, that's.
Well, he had a few concussions.
Oh, no.
So are you the only? Are you the not to go off topic, but are you the only person in your family with the artistic ability, or is that something that kind of rubbed off?
Yeah, I'm the only person in my family for like generations.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't think of like another person in my family.
Wow.
Yeah, that fell into it. Actually, no. One of my cousins is like an interior designer.
Oh, okay.
No.
So it's in the blood somewhere.
We're on the same generation, yeah. But granted, like, generations before us, like, they didn't really have like a ton of options.
Right. I mean, they may have had it, but there's no way to express themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, anyways, you're sorry, went off. You're in Hong Kong. You're 23.
So in Hong Kong, yeah. So working in Hypebeast, but also like at the same time, like I still wanted to continue pursuing my arts career. But because I fell in love with having my art displayed in gallery shows while living in the Bay Area.
Wait, so this was the Bay Area one. That was when you were in college.
Yeah, when I was in college, and so out there, like you don't get exposed to that as much out here. With like a lot of gallery shows, and these days even less so because there aren't that many galleries left out here in Hawaii. So out in San Francisco, like I used to always display my artwork in different group shows, and it was kind of nice to sort of have your work displayed because it was a time when you could get your work sort of validated and people would sort of see it. Because being an artist can be a very sort of isolating sort of profession where you're in your studio just painting, and then the only time you can ever show your work is at a gallery show because at that time, like Instagram and things like that weren't really that big. So I would sort of get my work out there and be in different shows and sell some work. And I really enjoyed doing that. So I wanted to continue doing that while living in Hong Kong because Hong Kong has a large gallery scene, but it kind of like ran on a different set of rules. So Hong Kong is very finance based. Everything is centered around money. I mean, that's just sort of like the Chinese sort of.
That's the Chinese, yeah.
Yeah, it's like everything is money. My grandmother used to tell me that I would never get a girlfriend if I didn't make money. Like that was sort of like the main reason why I was like single at some because I had no money. And I was an artist, like if I was a banker, then maybe I would, have better chances. So I took my work around to different galleries in Hong Kong. I kept getting rejected because they told me that I was the wrong type of Chinese. So
they told you that you were the what?
I was the wrong kind of Chinese.
Okay.
It was because I was like American Chinese. So
I see. Yeah, well, I mean, those weren't their words exactly.
No, that was pretty much like their words pretty much. Because at that time, the hot commodity to sell artwork and paintings at that time was mainland Chinese artists. So artists from Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Dongguan, etc. And because I was American, they felt like there was less, it would be harder for them to sort of sell my work.
Yeah. Okay.
There was less.
Not as marketable. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so I couldn't get into anything because no one would give me the chance. And also, at the time, also, you got to understand that like property and rental prices in Hong Kong are very high. So if they can't sell your work to sort of at least cover their rent, like they're not going to take that chance.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in that area where all the gallery are, like it's in sort of Central Admiralty, like Long Kwai Fong area where it's kind of the hip, expensive sort of districts.
Did you, this is just a random question. Did you ever think, or maybe you did you just like maybe in one piece, just jack up the price and see if someone bit? You know what I mean? Like,
it was
like
more
the whole
that
pricing thing where they're like, oh, if it's expensive, it must be good.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, they wouldn't even take the chance to sort of even show my work.
Because you're American Chinese.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and also because I didn't have like a lot to my name because I was still really young and trying to get my work out there.
Yeah,
so no cred yet.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I did was I decided to start my own gallery. That way I can sort of control and show art that I wanted to show my own artwork, but also at the same time, sort of try to give opportunities to like younger Hong Kong artists, because a lot of these galleries weren't even like supporting local artists as much. There's only like a few, like 2 or 3, And so there was this old restaurant that was abandoned for like about 10 years. So acquiring it to rent was not only cheap but easy.
Nice.
The only issue is that like Hong Kong tends to operate in like sort of like specific districts where they sell certain things. So say like there is a gallery district, but there's also a district for buying appliances, and a district for buying textiles, a district for buying like anything for that matter. They're all kind of separated between different places where they have all the stores in one place. So where I was a district for dried seafood. Also for Chinese people believe that like that if you burn like certain things, like it goes to the afterlife for like your deceased family and ancestors. And they kind of look like piñatas.
Okay.
There's like a variety of things. They're all made from paper.
Is it
like,
the red paper? Is it?
No, it's like they're like literally like sort of like sports cars and Louis Vuitton bags, mansions.
Oh.
There's even like people, because then you can like burn these like people so that they can get like maids and different people to sort of help them in the afterlife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is an entirely different podcast. I'm gonna tell you right now. I go to town and like
it makes sense because it's like with the Chinese way of thinking. So you can look back to like Qin Shi Huangdi or like the terracotta soldiers, right?
Yeah.
It's like all these like they thought that if they all kind of went with him, then they would all join him in the afterlife and they would have his armies and everything. So then here like you can send like a Louis Vuitton bag to like your deceased great grandpa or something.
Some Jordans.
Yeah, some Jordans. Yeah, like whatever. I've always wanted to like buy some to put in my house because they're like kind of cool. But then my mom said that it invites ghosts and stuff.
Oh,
you're gonna want all that products.
And you believed her.
Yeah. I still feel like I should get some. But anyways, I was in that district, and there was no subways. There was no subway station there, so it like ended before it got there. There is now, but there wasn't then. And so to get to my gallery, you really like had to want to go because it wasn't super convenient, and it was also like uphill too. So it wasn't like then people that came to openings really had to trek to like make the trek and really want to go. But it did well, the very first exhibition that was held in that gallery, which is called Above Second because it was above Second Street.
That's such a hype beast name too.
Yeah,
Above Second. It's such a hype beast name.
And so, the very first one was the very first POW WOW was in that exhibition.
That's so cool.
That gallery. Yeah, and so then the mission and the ideas behind that initial exhibition was one, let's not think about the finance nature of art. Like, let's take it back to when we were kids and we would just paint and draw for fun. Like, we didn't create work thinking that we needed to sell it. And we wouldn't create work specifically trying to, to have work that looked like it would sell. Like, if we didn't have that to worry about, like, what would we do? Like, what would we create? Like, would have more fun, be more experimental? To also, like, collaborate. So then I wanted to bring in artists from like all over. So I had some friends coming in from France, from London, from like Taiwan, Shanghai.
For that first one?
Yeah, for that first one, yeah. So maybe 5 of us or something. And then, and then we also like ended up destroying some of the work afterwards because knowing that if we didn't think about selling it and we knew that it wasn't going to last, then maybe we would, create more interesting work and have more fun working together. And so we kind of did that first initial project along those lines, and it did well. Like people came out. We had then we also had a small concert with DJs. It was with Verbal and Yoon from Ambush, and
not familiar.
And so we did a bunch of stuff, and it worked out well. And I wanted to sort of continue doing that exhibition elsewhere. And I was convinced to bring it back home to Hawaii by my friend Krista Whitmire, who actually flew up to Hong Kong for that first one in Hong Kong, and she stayed at my place.
She did.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
I had no idea that she had that connection with POW WOW like that.
Yeah. No, she was a part of POW WOW. A lot of the early festivals, like she was involved in helping to organize.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So we worked. So then she convinced me to try it back home. So she made some introductions to some friends, different people to try to like get spaces, etc. and then I tried to sort of like chase money and try to like raise money to try to fund the festival. And the hard part was, at that time, I mean, it's still a lot to this day. It's like a lot of different brands and companies don't see arts events as like good vehicles to like promote their brand with their company. So I had a hard time raising money that very first year, which was like 2011 for Hawaii.
And this is was it always in Kaka'ako? Or like,
yeah. So that very first one was at the old Fresh Cafe on Queen Street.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So then like we utilized the back warehouse, which at that time was like, they would use that for Art and Flea and for slam poetry events. Yeah. And so we did it there, and we had, I had a lot of time raising money. I mean, we had the venue for free, and then luckily I was able to like reconnect with Kamea, who I went to high school with, and he was building a house with his family in Pupukea, so he let us stay there for free. And he ended up being an integral part of POW and helping to plan. To this day, he's like my partner on all POW projects. And so, but then we didn't have any money for everything else, like flights, materials, etc. And so I couldn't raise any money. I had a really hard time. And, I had three options of one, to either like scale it down, two, to cancel it, or three, just to go for it and see what happens. And I ended up just using my credit card to pay for everything else.
Oh, man.
This is like, still like, in my 20s. I don't have any kids yet.
You're like, go for it.
Sure.
Yeah, I just go for it. Yeah. And so I covered all those costs, flew in artists from like Australia, from Europe, from all over Europe, the States, etc. And we pretty much sought to do the same project that we did in Hong Kong, but in Hawaii. But the one thing that shifted our viewpoints and shifted to like where we are now is that there was one wall in the parking lot of Fresh Cafe that belonged to the neighbor who was a veterinarian. And all the guys were like, we should paint this wall. I'm like, yeah, let me go ask. The owner of the wall didn't want us touching it. But then after I was pretty much like begging her to let's paint on it, I told her at the end, it's a win-win for her because one, she either has amazing art on the wall, or two, we'll like paint it over and she'll have a freshly painted wall. Cause at that time, the wall was kind of, it needed some,
like, we'll put it back. We promise.
Yeah.
It's cleaner than before.
Exactly. But then also painting murals and public art kind of fit with all of our sort of, missions that we were setting for ourselves. One, we can share process because it's in outdoor spaces. Two, we can't sell it because we don't own those walls. We can't sell like murals off those walls. And we can all collaborate and work together as well, And it kind of in a lot of ways also gives art back to the people, because what happened when I had a gallery in Hong Kong, or even like doing different projects, different places, I realized that a lot of people don't like going to galleries or museums. They don't feel like, they're like institutions that they don't feel like they'd be accepted in, or that's not for them. I've had people just sort of like look at artwork outside my window, but they wouldn't walk into the gallery. And so by putting it into outdoor spaces, it kind of gave it back to them. It kind of created put art into the fabric of their lives and into their communities. And so we decided that maybe we should focus on doing more public art and more murals. And so it kind of grew from there. And we started painting more and more murals around Kaka'ako. I think the biggest ones we've had like maybe like 120 artists painting about 100 murals in a week. Jeez. Plus like adding in, like concerts that we've done with BAMP. With like Dilated Peoples and Steve Aoki. We've had, done a bunch of block parties with like Eat the Streets, Street Grinds. We've done like a lot of different talks, screenings. We've started a few schools, music school, art school, photography, school of photography. We started like a kind of a creative community center with studios for local artists called Lonely Studios, which is still in Kaka'ako to this day. And then we started expanding outwards to like other cities. First one was in Taipei, Taiwan. Then we went to like, Long Beach, Japan, Kathmandu, Nepal, Guam, Rotterdam, Netherlands, Washington, D.C. Right now we work we've done work in like 17 cities around the world. And it continues to grow. We're working on ones in Singapore, Doha, all over the place. And so it's a lot since then. But, all centered around arts, public arts, and supporting communities.
And the same theme, right, Jasper? Like all these cities, you're bringing it's like half of local art or half or some number of local artists from that region, as well as artists from like everywhere.
Yep, exactly. So then even in Hawaii, like this last Hawaii one was 60% local.
Oh, nice.
And we have 40% of artists that like flew in. Yeah, and we try to stick to that with at least half being local as much as possible, so that we can sort of build bridges and connect artists that are flying in to like artists that are from those regions, that are from those cities.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was telling, so I'm married to previously known as Joy Tomita. She's Joy Anderson, but her and I like to just basically, we love every March, April, just walk around and look at the new art happening, right? We love it because we live in Kaka'ako, just like Lance does, right?
Yeah.
But the residual effects of this artwork is tourism and like destination, for people to come and take pictures against these murals that are everywhere and continuously growing. So, I mean, did you ever figure that something like this would affect Hawaii's largest economic factor?
Initially, no. Initially, it was more that I just wanted to find walls for artists to paint on, and and Kaka'ako seemed like the ideal location because in a lot of ways it was a forgotten district. Like no one went to Kaka'ako growing up. Yeah. I think the only reason why you would go to Kaka'ako is to go to Fisher's or to go to CompUSA or to get your car or if you got lost in Kaka'ako by accident. You're like, I don't know how I got here.
Or bagels, if you want pretty good bagels.
Yeah. And so like no one really like spent a lot of time at Kaka'ako, at least not to walk around or anything. Mm-hmm. But then the thing is that it's an industrial district that's sort of really in the center of Honolulu, in between like two major districts, like downtown Chinatown, Ala Moana, Waikiki ward. And so it seemed like an ideal place because industrial neighborhoods tend to have walls that have very few obstructions on them. They're like warehouses and different places. Yeah. There's not a lot of windows and doors on like whole sides of buildings. So that was kind of like the initial reason was like it just seemed like the perfect place for us, and we just started painting. And then the residual effect just started happening. Like one year, like we just had like tons of tourists show up, and then that they wouldn't only just be there for the festival, like they'd be there like throughout the year. Like I would constantly see people walking around.
I would say. Go ahead.
I was gonna say. I would even go so far, Jasper, to say that you helped push the gentrification of this amazing neighborhood. Oh, that's what I would say. Yeah, and help Segway do their tours.
Oh yeah, no, those Segway guys, like they just make up stuff. I've listened to them talk about the murals, and they just like make up anything off the top of their head.
Yes,
there's no like accurate information at all from those guys. But the thing is, like it's public art, so I can't really control who is there and walks around and checks it out and everything. But yeah, no, I mean like I think also like Kaka'ako is kind of a good example of gentrification that isn't, because that term a lot of times has a lot of negative connotations. Mm-hmm. But if you look at Kaka'ako now, it's like the majority of businesses that are there are all small local businesses.
Right.
It's all like, if you look at Salt alone, it's like almost all local except for like a few. And all the surrounding businesses that are around there too. So it's very nice to sort of like, and a lot of people that have been there since the beginning are still there. Like say restaurants like Insomnia, like they've been there since before we even did anything. Jay's Barbecue, same. A lot of different spots around there have been there forever, and they haven't left. So it's been good to sort of like see it grow, and see it.
Who's not local?
Locals, yeah.
Which place isn't local?
Like Starbucks.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
and Jamba Juice.
And that seafood place, right? What is that called?
Yeah. The seafood Boiling Crab.
Boiling Crab, right?
Yeah.
No, but I was telling Carl the other day that that mural behind Fisher, the Fisher art store. I remember seeing all these celebrities, like big time celebrities, taking pictures in front of the mural and tagging Kaka'ako, and I couldn't figure it out for a whole year where that mural was. Oh. I had no idea where. I was like, where in Kaka'ako could it be? And behind the Fisher wall, the Fisher Art Store, I would have never thought it was there. And then one day I'm walking to the UFC gym and I see it and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that these world famous actors or actresses or singers go from Waikiki and they come here basically just to see that piece of art.
You know, another reason why there were so many actors around Kaka'ako is because the old Fishers, not the current one, was being used by different movie studios to build sets.
Really?
And film. They also film in there too. So the movies that have been done in Kaka'ako are like Jumanji, the new Jumanjis with The Rock, Godzilla, King Kong, like all those ones are all done there.
Inhumans, I think, was filmed there too, right?
Yeah, and also The Wrong Missy was done there too. A bunch of stuff was done there. So because the only reason why I know is because I used to paint sets. So I painted sets for like Jumanji and Hawaii Five-0 and stuff. So I've done work in those buildings.
Yeah, I saw
cool.
a post of on your Instagram with Nick Jonas, I think it was.
Oh yeah. Like what I like to do is like usually like when you work for movies, like they don't pay well, like at least the work that I do for them. And so the best thing to do is to like write, like especially if they're trying to like get you to like tag stuff and everything, like do like graffiti sort of stuff. Like I wrote my daughter's name on everything.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, I love that. You know, Jasper, I can't help but think, you know, just listening to your story, which is great because I've heard this, but hearing it from you, it's like I'm hearing it for the first time. You obviously you have this entrepreneurial bone in you that, you know, you said like, look, I want to make a brand, right? When you were in Hong Kong, I want to start my own gallery, you know, when the opportunities are not plentiful. Now, for all of the artists that you come in contact with, that people who look to you and look at your story, is being entrepreneurial something that you would recommend to young budding artists in, you know, in this climate, but also just in general? Like once the coast is clear, do you recommend for people who, you know, want to kind of follow in your footsteps and they look at you and like, yeah, he did it from nothing, just, you know, with his pure talent and his love for art. So is that something you would recommend to young people?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think there's always like going to be like sort of a very steep learning curve to like any sort of profession that you enter into. And being an entrepreneur, it ends up being a lot tougher because there's no one to sort of help guide you a lot of times. So you're learning a lot of things on your own. You know, for myself, it's even like trying to figure out like taxes and like write-offs and figuring out like what's okay and what's not okay with contracts and different agreements so I don't get screwed over. And learning how to like negotiate prices or learning like what's your worth or when to say no on different things. And so it takes a lot of time and effort to figure it out. But, you know, if it's something that you're passionate about, then there's no reason to try to set yourself along that path and try.
I love what you just said right there. And I think Lance picked up on it too. So, and that would be the big question for me. So what are you worth, right? So we've had a couple designers on this podcast. And I guess one of the first things that it's like when you're a starving artist and, you know, you just want some opportunities, how do you place worth on your artwork, like at first, especially when you're new at this?
I think what you have to do, and what I also tell a lot of young students and people that are trying to enter into the arts field, is don't be afraid to cold email or cold call people that are in the business that you look up to, because they can at least help to mentor you and guide you and help you along those and figure out some of those sort of early things, like, you know, how much should I price a logo for, or an illustration or a mural, you know, what goes into it, or, you know, like the client is asking me that I need to provide liability insurance. Like, where do I get liability insurance? How do I get around that? How much would that cost me, you know, annually or for that project? And so, because in the worst case scenario, they don't answer you. They don't reply to you. Best case scenario, like, they reply to you and are willing to help you in any way that they can. You know, because I've had different artists reach out to me with the same thing. They'll send me an agreement and ask me to like look through it and see if I have any red flags. And oftentimes I'll catch things in there because then they know, a lot of companies like know that they're young artists and maybe they can get away with stuff. Sort of things like you should never sell ownership of your work in any way whatsoever. Because then if you sell ownership, then they can do whatever they want with it. They can make different product, they can alter it, modify it, make different things, and you have no rights to it at all anymore. And sometimes there's even like this very sort of thin line where, they might own the style or anything that looks similar. And so that can be really messy, where then you might be selling that style of work, to a company. And they might be only like paying you like a couple grand for it or something, because then you don't even know.
Sure. And is that the same advice you'd give to somebody who's, like they haven't sold anything?
Yeah, no,
and
absolutely.
They are like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for my bus fare back home tonight. Right.
It's just sort of like good habits and good things to watch out for from like the get-go. Because if you don't have those sort of like mentality coming in, then you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And it's going to sort of like cause issues for you later in your career. And also the thing too is like, you want to be able to price it at sort of a standard rate, because then if you're underpricing, then you're taking away, then you're kind of affecting the industry as a whole, especially if the industry is smaller, like in Hawaii. We're like, this guy's charging logos for $3,000, but this guy's charging it for like $500. And so, so they're like, I'm just going with the cheap guy. And then you just don't get like, then it doesn't help anyone within the industry. Whereas like if there's a standard, then at least sort of everyone can sort of work at like what the
going rates. Yep. The market rate.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's great advice. Thanks, Jasper. I know a lot of people are going to be excited to hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I had one time where I'm like, someone asked me to do like an interior mural for a business, and then the budget was $200. And I told them like straight up, like the amount of money that I would spend on materials is going to be more than $200. Like I'm pretty much paying you to sort of do the mural. Like it doesn't make sense. And I know that some people will be down. Like, oh, I'll do it for $200, but I'm like, it's not even feasible to do it for $200. And those are the situations where like it doesn't matter. You just say no to those kind of projects.
Yeah. And you kind of have to. Sounds like you also have to have the nuts to be able to say no.
Yeah.
When you're hungry and you're kind of like desperate.
But also like there's other things that come into play too. Like okay, maybe that company doesn't have a good budget, the small mom and pop. Maybe there's something along the lines of what what can be done in trade. Well, I'm like like what do they have? Like maybe like okay, maybe you pay me this much, and maybe but also maybe you give me some of this in trade or something.
I love it. Barter is not dead.
You know what that advice, Jasper, you know what that kind of reminds me of, and Carl, I'm sure you're familiar with this too, is David Cho's story with Facebook. About how he these numbers are not exact, but when Facebook was first opened up their offices, David had like no money, and they offered he graffiti painted like their stairwell, I think, in their bathroom, something like that. And they were like $65,000 or like 0.00002% of the company. And he took the percentage points and he made like $400 million overall or something like that. And he's just a super wealthy person right now, but he took the risk, right? I mean, he had no money. He could have taken that money, but he knew, I guess he just kind of he bet on himself and he bet on the company.
Yeah. So always to stay open, because sometimes like things, are pretty much like value. Sometimes I've done projects for airlines for like miles, and that's like, that's pretty much, if I'm going to fly, like that's pretty much cash.
It's good as cash.
Yeah. So, like to sort of like be open, but also times it also depends on the relationships that you have with different businesses. Like in the small mom and pops, you might just want to donate some time for them and to support small businesses, which I've done before too, where I've just done work for free.
It's kind of funny that you say that, like you're giving your kind, or the whole powwow thing. It's kind of crazy how those paintings really, or those murals, they really give an energy and a vibe to Salt, or to Kaka'ako. Like every time I'm walking around, I kind of like pinch myself. I'm like, this is so cool. Like this is the coolest part of Oahu, and to me it's not even close. It's like got a kind of a city vibe, but it's chill. There's freaking artwork from around the world just there. Like I can see it from my apartment whenever I'm going to get coffee to meet up with Carl on my way to the gym. There's like world famous paintings.
Yeah.
And
it attracts pretty people.
Yeah, it
does. So Jasper, did you receive, I sent the 3 pictures, 3 posts. Did you happen to get those?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just basically a little segment of Lance's. So
yeah. So so I go through everyone's photos, their Instagram photos, like a little creeper, and so basically I just wanted to know like the story, like what was going through your mind when you posted it, or why did you post it? So I was kind of interested in the one that you posted on. By the way, if anyone's listening, Jasper's Instagram is Mr. Jasper Wong, MrJasperWong, and the post we're looking at was October 26, 2018, and it's a mural in front of a Uniqlo store that you created. So what was who are these people that you painted?
Yeah, so that project was when Uniqlo was first working on building their initial flagship store in Hawaii, the very first one here. And obviously being familiar with Uniqlo and going to their stores while living in Asia and also having like a lot of Uniqlo apparel, like I was excited when they reached out to me asking to be a part of their opening, and to also, so what they needed was they needed to cover the barricades, the construction barricades in Ala Moana Shopping Center with artwork or with something, which is also like sort of what is done, for all the stores whenever they're building.
Yeah, you're right. You know what? I didn't even notice that. It was done so well. I didn't think that it was functional, because usually it just has that like coming soon sticker on it.
Yeah, exactly. And so they kind of like took it a step further and reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you like paint a mural on this thing?" And that thing was like 200 feet long or something. So I was like, yeah, like I could. Yeah, I can. And the thing is like, for me to paint a mural on that surface is actually cheaper than them having it printed and installed.
Oh.
I'm to have a mural painted, like when I quoted them the price, it was like way cheaper than what they would have otherwise.
Did you think about going back and be like, wait a minute?
Oh no, because actually that was one of my main selling points. I was like, well, like it probably will be cheaper, because then the Ala Moana teams were telling me how much it costs to sort of get those things done. I'm like, well, that's crazy high.
Wow.
So I said, you can get them all painted.
No, it was cool. It was so unique.
And so I ended up hand painting that whole thing, and it went through like a very like long approval process with their New York team of trying to sort of, trying to get like a good intersection of people from Hawaii. So some of those people on that mural are people that I know, like I paint my wife, my daughter's on it, one of my friends is on it, and some friends.
I told you, Lance.
Yeah, you did. He told me these were real people.
Yeah, it was just like some of them are not, because some of them were like, oh, can we change this guy, or they didn't like certain characters, so I had to make adjustments. So a bunch of them are not, or they were, and then they got changed to something else.
Lance is like, I want to know, what the inspiration is on it. And then I asked Lance, I'm like, no, I want to know what it takes to get on that. He goes, nah, it's just a bunch of characters. I'm like, no, those are people. Those are people. They have characteristics about them.
They ended up using that design for like the shopping bags, and it's still the design now. And I ended up painting a more permanent mural downstairs by the gelato spot. And that one ended up going through like a lot, because initially it was just black and white and people thought it was a coloring book, and so they would color it.
Oh my god!
No. And then I found out that they were getting the crayons from like Nordstrom's, because they would go eat there, and then they would give the kids crayons, and they would come downstairs and color the whole thing. This one grandma came up to me and was like, "Oh, I thought like my kids and I colored this thing," and I'm like, "What?" I want to press charges, like. You guys vandalized my mural.
That's a cute vandalism story.
Yeah, and so at the end, it's like, you know what, we need to like, the only way to sort of avoid that from happening, because I kept fixing it. Well, okay, a few things happened. The first thing that happened there was, for the more permanent mural, the painter used a more like oil-based paint, or like a stain-resistant paint. So when I would try to paint on it, like it will come off. And the thing is like Uniqlo always knew that what was going to be for a mural. Like that was always the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the painter knew that, but he just used the wrong kind of paint. That wasn't sort of conducive for like what I need to do. Another issue with sort of like working Ala Moana is that if you're doing any sort of work, like you have to do it after hours, like when all the stores are closed, which is tough, you know, because I'm doing like working late nights.
Right.
Unless you could turn it into like an event. So, you know, for some, when I was painting initially, like we turned it kind of like into a Uniqlo event. And then later on, like I had to sort of paint all the colors in. And I was really not looking forward to it because I had to like work pretty much starting from 10 p.m. to like all night long, which was going to be just, you know, just
how many, was this one night that you did this?
Oh, no. Like this is over a period of a bunch of different, like, so then like this long one, like I actually did during the daytime because we turned it into like an event with like shows. So people kind of like, it was seen as like live painting. Mm-hmm. Whereas like later on when I had to do that color one, when I had to color it in, they were asking me to sort of like do it after hours, but then COVID showed up in the daytime because then it was closed.
Oh, jeez.
So that was a silver lining for me. I was like, oh, cool, I can paint it during the day. Nothing open there anyway, so I'm like, cool.
Sweet, global pandemic. It's okay, yeah, that was great. That was really interesting. Okay, second one. Obviously, this one's your family. Is a post that you made on Valentine's Day, and it's your wife and your daughters. Just want to know a little bit about your family and your wife. How did you meet, or you know, that whole thing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so both my wife and I went to Kalani High School, and she was a cheerleader and I was a nerd.
Man, so you my
story
up,
is like,
man.
She didn't know me, but I knew her. But then you know, we actually didn't really know each other.
How it always is, man.
Yeah, I like how the story's starting. It's a good
like, you know, I like leave for college. I do things in Hong Kong, and then I would periodically come back to Hawaii to visit family, etc. And she had a blog called Hobnob City, and she would like want to interview different people, so she has to interview me. And I was getting a tattoo at that time, and then she wanted to interview me.
Did you get the tattoo? Did you get the tattoo to impress her, or was this pre?
Yeah, I wanted to show her how tough I was. You know, I tattoos and stuff. Well, the tattoo was of R. Crumb, so it's like this like underground like comic book artist.
Yep.
It wasn't like a cool dragon or a tiger or something. But then so now we just became friends for a long time, and we stayed in touch for like years, but we never like dated. Mm-hmm. We just because then she would have a boyfriend or I'd have a girlfriend or something. Like we just became good friends, and eventually we started dating years later, and then shortly after I got her pregnant, and I stayed in Hawaii.
I like the most eloquent way of putting that.
Yeah, within a year, like I like got a minivan, you know, got a house, like we got married. My daughter was like 2 months old when we got married, so it's already sort of obvious as to why we got married. We both have like really like traditional families, you know, where it's like you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be married and have kids. So
Jasper, you romantic schemer, you.
Oh man, no,
yeah,
that's.
So, but then the wedding was gnarly because like we did it in February. I thought it'd be a good idea to do it in February, like maybe a couple weeks after POW WOW, because all my friends would be in town. Mm-hmm. Which was also ended up being a bad idea because I was so burnt out from doing the festival.
Oh yeah.
Like the wedding was just like I can't. Then I have to do the wedding right afterwards.
It's like another event,
and then,
right?
And plus, I had like a 2 month. We had like a 2 month old on top of that.
Oh. Yeah. No.
So then by the time the wedding rolled around, I was sick.
Oh man.
Like I was like physically, I was ill. I was actually sick.
You were literally sick.
Yeah, and then I had like I lost my voice too. I think I lost my voice. Well, here's what happened. I lost my voice because I got locked in an elevator for an hour on my wedding day.
Oh my god!
So
you're just yelling the whole time?
So I was because I got so mad at like the front desk. I was in there for so long.
Yeah, an
I was
hour.
like, Dad, why am I here for so long? Like,
Was it a hotel?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay.
I got so mad. And then the lady would tell me to calm down, which got me even more mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Never.
When they tell you to calm down when you're already mad, you know, you're like, you get even more mad on top of that.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm gonna murder her once I get out of this elevator.
No, you got your family is so cute, man. I remember when we did the event together. I met your wife, and I think I saw your kids, and it was just like the energy was great. Like,
oh, thanks.
Yeah, super fun.
Yeah, they're really good kids. They're 7, and my youngest one is 2.
Oh man, you got the crazy. Isn't it called the crazy 2s, or is it crazy 3s? I don't know. What is it called? Is it any age crazy?
Yeah, no,
I think it's the crazy 8s.
Yeah, the crazy 8s. Yeah, no, she's really good for she's super chill, and
oh, that's awesome.
Well, she's good for a 2-year-old. Yeah, my older one was more crazier when she was that age.
No,
she like hated me. She hated me. Oh. But then she's not. Yeah, not so. But I think also like it helped. Like that's one of the silver linings of the pandemic. Like where I spent a lot of time with them this year, more so than years. Because normal years I'm traveling. I'm like gone,
right?
Like, at least once or twice a month for like 10 days at a time.
I will agree with you on that one. That's what I've been telling a lot of people. I have a 3-month-old, and it's like, oh, it must be so scary during this time. I'm like, it kind of was, because we live on the 32nd floor, so trying to leave is terrible, like in a tiny little elevator with a 1-month-old to go to the doctor. But yes, the silver lining, the bright spot is I get to see my baby and wife all day long. Doesn't make for good meetings, but
that's told. Yeah, I mean that's when congrats. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, hey, thanks, Jasper.
You guys you're like just out of the crazy sort of waking up every 2 hours, 3 hours period.
Really? Are you sure?
Well, I got lucky. My first one started sleeping through the night after 3 months.
Oh man.
My younger one, less so. My younger one took almost like a year to do that, but it got easier as time passed.
No, our baby is basically exploring her vocal cords. So it like at 2:00 in the morning, it's like living with an R2D2 that has a broken volume knob, and it's all the way up. It's like whap, and it's like I don't know. Sounds like a terrible alarm. Anyway, last post.
Yeah,
what's the last post?
And this is
our favorite.
This is our favorite one because it's, I think a lot of us were either side that you voted for, you were affected by. But you posted something on June 17th. We're in this together. It was multiple posts, but that was the cover photo. Tell us a little bit about that. And you worked with a company called, or a group called Progress.
Yeah, so that was a project that was initiated by commitment schools. And initially they wanted a different thing altogether. And I convinced them that it would make more sense to sort of like put a bunch of signs rather. Because then the other idea wouldn't have lasted too long, because they're initially talking about like, oh, let's go do a bunch of like sidewalk chalk drawings. And I'm like, well, if it rains or anything, then it'll be gone. Whereas like if we have a bunch of signs, one, it's easier for us to do it during the pandemic because we can do it from our studios or our home more so than like having to go on site. And so we kind of came up with a bunch of messages centered around positivity, and what was going on at that time, and all like hand painted and installed. So in Progress is actually Jeff Gress, who's actually one of my partners at POW WOW, and he's trained as a sign painter. So we work together and sort of like, putting them up all over the island, just to sort of like add just sort of like a little bit of positivity to sort of the surrounding environment, because of COVID was really causing a lot of depression. It was really sort of a sad time because a lot of businesses were struggling, a lot of people were struggling. So we felt like we could just sort of give back, and luckily KS wanted to sort of do the same. The only thing that ended up happening is that we installed it also right when the Black Lives Matter protests really started gearing up.
Yeah.
So some people mad at us because they said, no, we shouldn't stay positive. We should stay angry. And I'm like,
oh, the messages got twisted up, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And I said it wasn't. I didn't put those. They were created for COVID. Like it wasn't related to Black Lives Matter at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so initially when it was done, and so then some people sort of like, got angry at those signs, and even some of them even got like vandalized because of it.
Oh,
but
that's unfortunate.
It happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you consider that a campaign, or would you consider that more of an art installation?
I guess it was more. I mean, I guess a little of both, because then we ended up, they're all pieces of art, because then they're all painted by hand.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of them got stolen, which is good.
Well, because
we knew that might happen.
I was wondering, like, at what point does politics? What's the crossroad where politics intersects with art? And it happens all the time throughout our history. But something as grassroots or as with simple messaging as that, it can kind of get misconstrued, right? Just because of so many things being thrown at us in 2020. It's like, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the other thing.
Yeah, I mean, like one thing that we got in trouble for this past summer, before the primary elections, was we at POW WOW, it was painted by Kamea Hadar and Jeff Gress, and working with the Everyone campaign. We painted a big "Go Vote" mural on King Street, which only lasted about like 4 days because we got cited for breaking outdoor advertising laws. But then, the thing was that, like, during this period, political advertising is okay, is legal. Okay. But because but then it was a big "Go Vote" mural, and since it was just words and it wasn't like a mural for art's sake. It was kind of like rode that fine line, and it got taken down.
Oh, because they said that it kind of looked like a billboard.
Yeah, exactly. It looked like a billboard. It was just a call to action to vote.
Right. Are you able to say who asked you to take it down?
No, they told me that they got a ton of complaints from neighbors and different people. I said that the issue is that, like, if they allow it, like, someone might put up something more divisive.
Oh, got it. That makes sense, because it kind of sets a precedent, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if someone put up like a pro-life, or like or anything, or like defund police, like different mural, then like it might end up angering different people, depending on who. So I was like, when they said that they can't, that they said, like, because even though like they agree with it, and it's just a call to action to vote, which is a good thing. Like we weren't even sort of tying it to any sort of political party. They said that anyone could sort of come in and start doing all types of different signage, and they will look back at this one.
Yeah, and they'll say they did it. Right.
And so then like we ended up getting rid of it, like right away, because we understood the issues surrounding it and something that we didn't even think about.
It was really cool though when it was up and people were it was going across Instagram. I actually thought it was. I thought my friends that were here that were posting it were somehow in LA. I don't know why. Because I think I saw the palm trees or something. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then I realized it was here, and I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah. It was cool that you had to do it. I mean, like, it was a good thing to try to do, at least. It had good intentions.
Yeah, it was cool. Okay.
And the photos survive beyond that.
Yeah, no, the photos were cool. Okay, I have one last kind of thing, unless, Carl, you have anything else?
No.
I have, you don't have to tell me, but I'm curious. So we know that Shepard Fairey, right? He painted that mural on, I can't remember the intersection.
Ward and Ala Moana.
Yeah, Ward and Ala Moana. And I don't think people realize how big of a deal that is. I drive by and I always tell people, like, that's a big deal. So he painted the famous Time magazine portrait of Obama in 2016 or earlier than that. So at some point.
All the another hope posters for this campaign.
Huge deal, right? And I know, according to this movie, this documentary called Exit Through the Gift Shop about
Banksy.
about Banksy, that I think he knows him. My question to you, do you know who it is?
No, I've never met him.
Is he real? Is he real?
Yeah, he's definitely a real person because I know a lot of people that are personal friends of his.
Wow.
But I personally don't know him. I've never met him.
Okay. I was just wondering. Because
he's not a bunch of people. He's
I guess that's kind
one
of one person too. Is he as far as you know, he is just one
idea?
What my friends tell me, he is a singular artist. I mean, he has a team that works with him, but he is like a singular artist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember when those murals were initially just popping up. I along with the rest of the world was like totally intrigued with not only the message but like the way that he did it, and it I like that it was on the street and he was like trying to say, well, he or she, who knows, was trying to, put a message out there. And then of course the thing that happened the year before at the auction where it shredded itself.
Yeah.
I thought that was the coolest thing like ever. I don't know if it was, some people say it's fake. I think it's real, but I thought that was really
cool.
No,
he's always been doing a lot of interesting work for the entirety of his career. Yeah, I mean, he helped to sort of bring a lot of work from the streets and validate it within museums, auction houses, galleries around the world, and so we credit a lot.
Does he sell his work, or how does he make money? Or I don't think I've ever.
I've always thought that. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I've always thought that he must be loaded to begin with, like even like in the beginning, because he would do different projects that were like that cost. To me, I was like, that looks like it costs a lot of money. Like I don't know, I couldn't afford to do that. When he would like sort of get phone booths and cut them in half and then like put them back together again in different ways, I'm like, that doesn't look like it would be cheap to.
There was one,
or like he would put together like entire exhibitions for himself.
Yeah, there was an exhibition I think in London where he painted. It was like, from what I remember, this is a long time ago. It was like a made up room or a corner of a room of like a living room, and it had like wallpaper on it, and there was an elephant in front, like in the living room. And it was painted the same color as the wallpaper, if I'm not mistaken. It was a long time ago. I don't know what he was trying to say, but
then he had an exhibition in LA too, and I'm like, that looked like it probably cost a lot of money. So I've always thought that he was well off to begin with. I mean, there are some artists that are like that, like say like guys like Jeff Koons, right? Like he was in Wall Street, and he made a lot of money in Wall Street, and then he became.
Is that true? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought he made his money off of his balloon, or those balloon structures.
No, initially he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't even doing art. Like, but he made a ton of money off of Wall Street, and then he started doing art. And because for a lot of young people, it's like I can't even afford to sort of make a big sculpture, because the cost to do a sculpture is going to cost like 6 figures, to do something that big, that size. Like I can't afford that, and then and then see if I can even sell something like that to like make that money.
Right,
back.
The risk is too high, right?
Yeah, it's like. Give me a canvas and some paint is probably like all I can afford,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. I didn't know. Yeah, I thought, man, I knew it was a long shot, but I thought, Jasper, there might be a chance that you would just say, oh yeah, it's Mike something down the street, and like let it slip.
Carl and Lance.
Yeah, right.
No, yeah, I know him. He went to Roosevelt.
Yeah, he's right here. Yeah, and then we break the internet.
Yeah, he went to Washington Intermediate. His name is Dwayne Johnson.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
people see his shoulders. Yeah, I think I don't have any more questions, Jasper. Carl, you got anything?
No, this is great. I know we didn't get to any of the movies, but that's okay because this was fantastic. Yeah, thanks Jasper, for being so well spoken.
Thank you, man.
Oh, no, thank you. No, remember, make my voice deeper.
No,
I sound like.
No, your story is like a movie, though. I think that a lot of people listening are going to be able to relate to, I want to go down this path, but it's not the traditional path. It's not what my family is used to. I don't want to be, an accountant or whatever they want, a lawyer, doctor, whatever they want you to be. I have this art in me. I want to go this way. And you freaking did it, and you're helping a lot of other people along the way too. So
I think like this day, like in this day and age, like you don't have to head into like specific career paths that are so confined or already sort of defined in a lot of ways. Like you can do a lot of different things at the same time. Like there's a lot more resources for young people to do different things that we didn't have when I graduated from high school or college.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nowadays, like if you wanted to, you know, make a book, like you can make one-off books off of different resources that are online, you know, or there's a lot more like resources that where you can make your own film and videos. You know, these days people are making entire movies off their iPhones and stuff, like Soderbergh and stuff do that. Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot more, or even like shirts and stuff. Like people can do like one-off, like just print like 10 shirts. Back then, like you had to burn a screen, then like print at least 100 shirts, 120 shirts. You know, like you need like a lot less capital to sort of get things going. Which also means that there's a lot more competition out there.
Mm-hmm.
Which also means that you have to be better.
Right. The best kind of rise to the top.
Yeah. So, you know, but nowadays, like there's so many more opportunities than there were. Where like, you know, I've done work. You know, like where I've like done, you know, shoe designs and bags and painted sets for movies, run festivals, you know, do branding work, you know, do art directing and campaigns for Microsoft, for Uniqlo, etc. You know, it's like you can do a lot of things. You don't have to just be an illustrator or a painter or an interior designer or industrial designer or a graphic designer or even an accountant. Or, you know, you can do a ton of different things at the same time.
Structured now. I mean, we live in a world where you have internet and you have resources.
There are many different facets to what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, people like become famous like playing video games. You know?
Yeah, who would have thought about? Who would have thought?
Yeah, because and then if you look at some of those video games, it's like, you know, some of these guys became really famous really quickly because those video games haven't been around for that long.
Right.
So it's like, you know, I mean, like I play Fortnite. I'm not that good at it. I always get like destroyed. And then I use my real name as my handle, which really sucks because little kids are like, Jasper, you suck. I'm like,
that's the worst though, is when you're playing a first person shooter and you hear the voice on the other side and you know you just got killed by like a 9-year-old. And there's nothing you can do about it. They're inherently better than you.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What's going on?
You expect it, but you know, the shelf life of a pro gamer, I guess, is worse than a ballerina. It's like they're washed up at 24. I don't have the Twitch responses as a 19-year-old.
You know? Yeah, I mean, like, that's the same with like pro sports, right? Like most of them can't really play past like their 30s. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, they'll be fine. They'll make their millions while they're 19. They'll be fine. I don't feel bad for them.
Hey, Jasper, I have one final thought for us to close out this the podcast. So right now you've already mentioned at least 3 or 4 times that you were the nerdy kid in school, and but now look at us today. Where you're at today, look at the wife that you have today and the family and all of the relationships that you've built and all of the people that you've inspired. Maybe people didn't listen to you back then when you were in high school, but what is cool to Jasper Wong? Like if there's one thing that it could even be a fleeting thing, but right now, what should people be looking at? What is something that's pretty cool that really gets you going that you're like, wow, I wish more people would see this? It could be anything.
Oh man.
It could be food. It could be a restaurant. It could be an idea. It could be a movie.
It could be that what Carl taught me today, that Vans is buying Supreme.
Yeah.
We don't have to get into that. I was just kidding.
Oh, yeah, Supreme is going to sell soon.
Yeah.
For like billions.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know, dude. Like I watch a crap ton of anime, so I don't even that's like I was watching anime before you guys were calling me, so.
Oh, really? I tried to get
I'm like in my 30s and I watch so much like cartoons.
Okay. Well, what are you watching currently?
Well, I'm trying to like catch up on different things that I kind of fell behind on, like Demon Slayer is really cool.
Yep. Yeah.
I had to catch up on Attack on Titans because the last season's coming out in December, so I needed to make sure that I caught up on it before I watched the last one. I've been watching Naruto and One Piece for like years.
Yeah. Did you see the live action of Attack on Titan?
Yeah, but I don't like any of the live action anime stuff, man.
Neither do I. They just ruin it.
Yeah, and it's like it's just like the production quality is like so low too. It's
yeah, I know. Just give it to the people in the States. Give it to Hollywood. They'll may not be a good story, but they still do it right.
Titans, like they're all like like they'll say, oh, they're like whitewashing all the characters in anime, and I'm like, yeah, but in Attack on Titans, they're actually all white people, I think.
Is that true?
Yeah,
oh my god, I guess it is.
Yeah, they're all like Europeans and stuff.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I think like that's the perfect one for like Hollywood to whitewash.
Is that okay? So I don't know anything about anime. Is Attack on Titans, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that the one where there's a wall and there's a huge giant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Giants.
That's all I know about it.
Plural.
Oh, and they're all naked, and they run around eating people.
Oh.
Yeah, but what are they supposed to represent?
I think I would give away too much if I explained it, because I'm like they kind of explain where they all came from, like in this last season.
I know. I just wanted to see.
Oh, I'm like, I don't want to give. There's some guy like listening, but like, oh crap, spoiler alert.
Yeah. I am still going through all of the Evangelion series over and over and over again because it always makes for great debates.
Well, there's certain like studios that I like watching, like like Trigger does a lot of great work. Bones does a lot of great work. Like I kind of like to watch stuff based on like directors and like studios.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so then there's some like good stuff that like has been coming out. Like I just watched Vinland Saga, which is pretty cool. It's like it's more of a historical anime, which is always weird because they're like speaking Japanese and stuff. But then they're talking about like Vikings and stuff, so it's like, but it's still cool. I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Well, those sound really deep, so I'm not sure if I'm going to even get into those. I'm going to.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, that was cooler in my head right now. I'm like, I'm watching like anime.
You know what, Jasper, is I think I've told Carl this. I didn't growing up. I didn't have a lot of Asian friends, but the ones that did, they did watch a little bit of anime, and I tried my hardest to get into it. I would watch Dragon Ball Z and pretend like I was into it. I had no idea what I was doing or what was going on. I knew there was Goku and Piccolo, the guy that looked like a pickle. And that was it. And I tried to get into it. And I think the only one I ever liked was Vampire Hunter.
Vampire Hunter D?
Yeah, that's the original one. Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
You know, like Dragon Ball Z is really popular in like places like Jamaica.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, and like like the black community, like they love anime.
Oh.
It's really cool.
Oh no, yeah, I get that.
Black friends that like love anime. I'm like, it's really cool to like talk anime
with people. It's kind of weird how it kind of bridges.
Michael B. Jordan, like he's like obsessed with anime.
I wonder, is it the storytelling?
I was watching like all these videos of like NBA bubbles.
Oh,
and like, one of them like watch Naruto on their free time.
What you're talking about? You mean the NBA bubble in Orlando?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did follow a couple of the guys.
I know. Like,
they all watched it.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, cool. I watched that one too. I also watched Naruto.
Yeah, it's funny. It's so funny when even a lot of those basketball players, even pre-bubble, they have all the money in the world. They can do anything they want, but a lot of them are gaming at home on Twitch, or they're watching anime. And I'm like, they're just normal people. They're just normal people with a ton of money.
Well, it's all the things that we think are nerdy, like growing up. Like, see, when we were kids growing up, like Marvel was nerdy. Like being into X-Men.
Absolutely.
And now, like, it's like the biggest movie franchise, like the MCU and everything. Everyone loves Marvel. And I'm like, I'm just watching this. Like, I was reading comic books since I could read.
Yeah. No, same thing with Star Wars.
Yeah, same with Star Wars. Yeah.
I mean, that's still kind of nerdy. I mean, Star Trek will always be nerdy for some reason.
Yeah. Also, like all the new, like a lot of the new Star Trek stuff isn't as good either. Yeah. Like I'm not a big fan of the new shows as much. But,
oh, really?
Yeah, but I love like the Mandalorian, but like Star Trek Discovery and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm like,
there's too many shows. There's so many shows. I can't. It's hard to keep up. And then they have like in the Star Wars, they have like animated movies that like tie in with the actual movies. So I feel like if I have to watch it now.
No, you don't have to.
No. But
anyway, Jasper, thanks again for your time. I know we both have to get back to our families and babies, but thanks again. And you know what? If you're open to it, I'd love to invite you back sometime and maybe talk anime.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother, who's like a firefighter, and like works out like nonstop and is super buff, like loves anime too.
Oh, I know. There is no shortage of people who will talk anime. I mean, I got a friend who buys all of the toys at all of the shows and Comic Cons, and then resells them, and then so he has to be up on what people are buying, and but he knows
there's so much good stuff too. I think the only stuff that isn't as good is all the cell shaded stuff that Netflix puts out.
Like what?
It just feels like lazy anime to me.
Oh, yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, anything that's like DC. That's
all the stuff like Netflix throws in all these anime, like they like adapt all these anime, but then they just do like the cell where they like it's like 3D, but like supposed to look like a cartoon.
Right.
Like look as good. Like I feel like it should just be 2D animated, like the Godzilla one and stuff. I didn't like the Godzilla one at all.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah.
I love hearing an artist take on that.
Yeah, like it bothers me. I'm like, this doesn't even look good. Like it looks.
Yeah. So Lance, did you ever see any of the new Transformer animations?
No,
they're like CG.
The only animation I watch is Archer and Family Guy.
Oh, see, Archer
as far as I go.
I wouldn't even consider that animation.
Well, I mean, it's
more like It's more like jokes with like.
Oh, yeah. But Archer is hilarious. I don't know if anybody's listening. You should watch Archer. It's hilarious.
Yeah, no, Archer is really good.
Rick and Morty, man.
Rick and Morty. Yeah. Rick and Morty's
smartest show on TV.
You should also watch the other one that's on Hulu, which is pretty much like it was done by the same guys. I think it was also done by Justin Roiland as well.
Oh, that's right.
Which one?
It's a new series that they're putting out.
But it's made by the Rick and Morty guys?
Yeah,
Justin Roiland,
Yeah, it's really good. It's really funny.
Jeez.
If you like need a Rick and Morty fix, you gotta watch that one.
Jasper, thank you so much, man. Yeah, we definitely gotta get you on again.
Yeah, no, I'm down. I'm always down to like nerd out on stuff because I don't.
That's good. That's okay. Dude. This is what me and Carl. You know what? The reason why we made this podcast is because we nerd out on things, and we're like, let's nerd out with other people. That's here. Welcome. Here we are.
Thanks, Jasper. Have a great night.
Thanks, Jasper.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
So once again, just wanted to say thanks to Jasper Wong for taking us through, his childhood and how he got started with POW WOW and everything, all the really cool things that they've been doing.
It was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what do we got coming up next, Lance?
We have a talk about Star Wars.
Star Wars?
Near nothing about.
Star Wars chat on the next Real Parallels.